Hey everyone, and a big warm welcome to one and all, as ever. So, staying with the idea that there is nothing more important than wellness. Staying with the notion that we are the ones we've been waiting for. Staying with the view that there are plenty of tools in the counselling room that can work just as well in the living room. I now give you a whole new thread of inquiry to get your head around and get your teeth into. It's a wellness calendar, no less, with 365 days worth of bite-sized nuggets that we hope is going to be super useful for self-detectives to sieve their way through. So, each calendar month has a different theme. Shortly, we'll be covering January with 31 days of mini ideas that focus on the creation of our own wellness landscape. Then, in February, we'll turn to coping strategies, while March is devoted to the self, ourself. April looks at our relationships. In May, we enter into the internal world of feelings and thoughts and bodily sensations, while in June we explore what it means to be a citizen, alongside the notion of universal wellness. July is all about being creative and expressive, whereas August focuses on somatics, the relationship between body and mind. September is solely about ways in which we can empower ourselves, while October is reserved for the art of self-directed learning. Meanwhile, in November, we take a look at how spirituality may be of use to us. And then finally, we reach December, where we take all that we have learnt and start to map out our revolutions, the stuff that's really, really, really going to speed up and radically enhance our wellness. Good. So let's get to it. And just to say again, especially if you're new to the club, none of what I'm saying is right or wrong. Instead, dear listener, I trust you to take whatever you find useful from this content and disregard the rest. All I am ever doing is providing a platform, an edge, a diving board for you to bounce around on before you dive off into your own unique world with whatever gems you've found along the way. Okay. 1st of January. Welcome to wellness. Welcome to wellness. Why? Because there's nothing more important, because there are so many different ways to wellness, because we don't want to leave it to chance. Just out of interest, how do you define wellness? I mean, one definition is thriving, another is maintaining good health. Words linked to it might include well-being, happiness, fulfillment, contentment, life satisfaction, meaning and purpose. But what is your understanding of it? That would be the most important definition of all. And now we have our thought of the day. There is one person you are going to spend the rest of your life with. Maybe now is a good time to get to know yourself. January the 2nd. Start. Something happening, something coming into being. Many people do not engage with their own wellness because they don't know where to make a start. Yet surely it doesn't matter where you start, just so long as you make a start. Wherever your journey takes you, you'll eventually get to where you want to be. So long as you persevere with the task at hand, you'll be able to make the necessary connections and arrive at your destination, even if you don't know exactly what that destination is going to be. For more on this subject, check out the Self-Detective Club podcast episode Making a Start, which was published on October 2025. January the 3rd, time. Here are some words associated with time: schedule, setup, plan, arrangement, duration, ongoing. Realistically, can you donate some of the time in your life to improving the wellness of your life? And if so, how much time? 1 hour a day? A week? A month? More? Less? Can you make a commitment to yourself because you're worth it? Because here is an opportunity to future-proof your wellness. Because once the groundwork is laid, the less time you'll need to keep your wellness ticking over. How's this for a quote of the day? How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. Annie Dillard. January the 4th, focusing on wellness. Focus, making something the center of your interest. One short answer to the question, how can I improve my wellness, could be by staying focused on it. If the pursuit of wellness is in the forefront of your mind, you can explore it. If wellness is somewhere in the background, you cannot. Question time. How good am I at staying focused on things? Can I focus on focusing? Can I work out a way to improve my focus, if I need to, that is? Can I make focusing on my wellness a playful, enjoyable experience, rather than it being a chore or a drag? January the 5th, awareness. To be conscious of something, to sense things. What do you think of the following statements? With awareness, you have choices. With awareness, you can make changes. With awareness, you can be proactive. Without awareness, you have little choice but to react to whatever life throws at you. Without awareness, you could be a danger to yourself and to those around you. How would you know how aware you are? How would you define your awareness in general terms? How would you call your awareness of your own internal world? How would you describe your awareness of the world around you? January the 6th, being attuned to what's going on. Attunement, an advanced form of awareness, an ability to recognize ever-changing details of the world around you. If you can listen to what your body is telling you, if you can work out what your dreams are telling you, if you can understand what your thoughts are telling you, if you can hear what your emotions are telling you, then you can truly respond. Does that sound right? If you can hear what other people are telling you, both verbally and non-verbally, then you can truly connect to them. Is this fair enough? January the 7th, turning mental health on its head. Humane, having or showing compassion. Inhumane, lacking the human qualities of compassion, being cruel. Here's an idea from Natalie Rogers, an art psychotherapist. If you are in distress, you are being human. You are reacting to circumstances in a totally human way. You don't need to be treated as though there's something wrong with you. Let us now combine what she is saying with a quote from Jiddu Krishnamurti. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. I'll say it once again. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. Could this mean that anyone who is thriving in a sick society is actually pretty sick and inhuman, while those that are struggling are human? Does this mean that much of what makes us unwell is tied up with living in a rotten, hostile, and inhumane world? And if this is the case, maybe the humans don't need to be so hard on themselves, since they are merely being human in an inhumane world. Maybe the real mental health issue is for the inhumanes to seek help and learn to be human and do us all a favor. January the 8th. Observing yourself neutrally. Okay, so with awareness and attunement comes a wealth of information. When you gather material about yourself that will hopefully help you to expand your wellness, please treat it as neither positive nor negative. Instead, you might want to see this newfound knowledge only in terms of how useful it is to you. Here's the concern for you from me. If you do not like yourself, if you tend to punish yourself or be hard on yourself, if you have low self-esteem, there is a real risk that you might use this knowledge against yourself. This will be the very opposite of wellness. This will create unwellness. To prevent this from happening, see if you can render all new information about yourself as neutral. Just as you might discover that the rings of Saturn are made up of bits of broken moons, so might you work out, as a random example, that you have been trying to please your parents all your life, rather than yourself. There's no need to blame yourself for not working this out sooner. Instead, you can take this neutral piece of information and simply use it to veer off in a healthier direction in your life. January the 9th. A change for the better. What do you make of this? The holy grail of wellness is for us to change in some way so that we can forever adapt to the changes that are happening around us, so that we can constantly improve the quality of our lives by twisting and turning, ducking and diving. Carl Rogers, the creator of person-centered therapy, said that given the right conditions, there will be a change for the better. Just as a plant moves their leaves to reach the rays of the sun, so do we, as humans, seek pleasure and avoid pain. We want the best for ourselves. We want to fulfill our potential. And when we don't get the right conditions, we come unstuck. When hostilities and hurdles lay in our way, when we are overwhelmed, when we develop a narrow or gloomy mindset, when fear overrides our natural urges and desires, when we suffer trauma and abuse. This is where time and focus, awareness and attunement can all become super handy tools. This is where we can find ways to open doors that we didn't even knew existed before. This is where we can find solutions to problems. This is where we can reach out for help, because we now have a sense of who we are, where we are, and what changes we need in order to move to a better place. Or, put another way, those who do not move do not notice their chains. Rosa Luxemburg, January the 10th. Meeting our needs. According to Eric Berne, the psychiatrist and founder of transactional analysis, if we don't get our needs met, we end up with hungers. So it may be worth keeping an eye on the 6 hungers he identified to make sure you aren't neglecting your needs. Number 1, stimulus hunger. Taste, smell, temperature, direction, motion, touch, sight, sound, time, balance, pain, speed. If these senses are not stimulated enough, it can cause us to become numb, depressed, and distressed. 2, recognition hunger. To be ignored can lead to low self-worth and problems with our sense of belonging and identity. 3, contact hunger. We all need physical contact on a regular basis. Hugs, handshakes, kisses, pats on the back are examples of small moments of contact that can keep this hunger at bay. 4, passion hunger. Falling in love, politics, supporting a sporting team, bird watching, all examples of having passion in our lives. 5, time structure hungers. Are you making use of your time on this planet, or do you feel you are fritting away your days? And finally, 6, incident hunger. We all need a bit of drama in our lives once in a while, so as to feel alive. We listen to the news of the day and allow ourselves to be shocked, disgusted, outraged, surprised, pleased, overjoyed. But here's the thing. Do you have a hunger? Do you have an unmet need? If so, what can you do about it? January the 11th. Taking ownership of your life. Question time. How invested in yourself and your life would you say you are? How much do you expect other people to do things for you? Cook your meals, look after your health, remind you to do things, tell you not to do other things, pull you out of your gloom? Is it fair to say that at any moment in time, you are either being passive or active, proactive or reactive? Is it fair to say that at any moment in time, you are either taking responsibility for yourself or you are sleepwalking through life? Is that fair? I mean, wellness requires effort and motivation and ultimately responsibility. And if you don't have it, then maybe finding it could be your first port of call. Being able to stand on your own 2 feet means you don't have to rely on others so much. Being independent allows you to get to shape so much of your existence because you are in the driving seat. Being autonomous gives you greater freedom and self-empowerment. If you would like an exercise in taking ownership of your life, how about this? The next time you listen to the news, can you question everything, like literally everything about it? Like what is being said, what is not being said, how it is being said? Can you come up with your own filter and develop your own interpretation of the news, rather than absorbing what someone else is saying wholesale? We will definitely be looking at critical thinking and critical theory at some point, so watch this space. January the 12th, nuts and bolts. Over the course of our lives, we can stack up quite a lot of distress and adversity. If we don't deal with each bump in the road at the time, they can build up and become pretty overwhelming. People who are paid to pathologize what is wrong with others use labels. They say you have anxiety, stress, depression. or they say you have this or that personality disorder. Millions upon millions of people are being given the same tags, even though their circumstances are entirely unique. If you want to be in control of your own wellness, you can do so by taking the time to break down the labels, break down the misery into smaller and smaller parts. The hope is that eventually you will be left with a lot of nuts and bolts, which are so much easier to deal with. So, for example, if there are 10 major events that happened in your life, can you take the time to single them out as separate entities? Can you then choose one identity you want to work on first? And once you start, you will no doubt see that this event can be broken down further and further into places, names, memories, emotions, and thoughts, etc., etc. Doing this activity is in itself incredibly helpful and healthy. The very fact that you are working on your suffering is already helping your brain to process and heal. January the 13th, the power of your voice. Having a voice and using that voice is one of the most powerful things we can do for ourselves. We don't know exactly why it's so important to have a voice, just as it can be harmful to not use your voice when we need to. Perhaps the mantra, better out than in, holds the key. What we do know is that there is a great difference between thinking or feeling something internally and getting it out into the external world. A voice doesn't need to be solely about the spoken word. Dance and movement can also help to express ourselves. The same with writing and drawing, moulding and shaping, to name but a few vehicles of communication. Would it be useful for you to truly find your voice in whatever platform suits you best and find out what it is that you really want or need to say? January the 14th, kindly internal dialogues. We have, by all accounts, around 70,000 thoughts a day. What do we do with them? How might we sift through this information and decide which nuggets are important, which are worthy of our attention, and which need acting upon? One way to do the sorting out is to have the capacity for an internal dialogue. In its simplest form, this is about two different voices in our head, silently and cooperatively discussing the merits of something that has come to the forefront of our brain. The hope is that by having another part of us to spar with, it can help us to formulate plans, make decisions, find solutions, develop ideas, and gain new insights. If we are not having these conversations, we run the risk of being thoughtless, of being amoral. Yes, we are still having thoughts, but because we aren't mulling over them, we aren't truly engaging with them. Take this scenario. Sanya spills her drink on the carpet at a friend's house party on her way from one room to another. No one sees her do it. Without an internal dialogue, she doesn't think twice about what happened. With an internal dialogue, she works through a plan of action that involves apologizing to the host and asking where she can find a cloth. Now, many people talk to themselves internally already, yet there is no harm in actively developing these conversations to get the most out of them. If anyone has a hostile, unfriendly voice inside them that is prone to criticisms and put-downs, please consider the idea of getting rid of this voice as soon as possible and replacing it with a kindly voice, perhaps based on a kindly role model. January the 15th, mini-me's. The you that gets angry is a different persona to the you that gets sad, which in turn is set apart from the you, say, that is reading a stimulating book, or the you that is absorbed in a physical task. We call these different parts of us mini-me's, although you can call them whatever you like. In counseling circles, they are sometimes known as subpersonalities or configurations of the self. If you take the time to become attuned to them, you can discover all sorts of weird and wonderful aspects to yourself, all of which may have something useful to say to your main me. A strong mini-me can help us when we are feeling weak. A past mini-me might hold the key to our future wellness. There might also be some mini-me's that are difficult to get on with and which might need some help to be healed or forgiven. Mapping out our mini-me's could be an exercise that, in the long run, harmonizes our collective self and reduces internal conflicts. Also, if there ends up being a few mini-me's you bond with, well, how cool is that? How about some random examples to get you started? Angry me, calm me, sad me, jolly me, scared me, fearful me, fearless me, loud me, quiet me, white tiger me, silly sausage me, thoughtful me, thoughtless me, action me, can't be bothered me, alert me, tired me, musical me, silent me, aggressive me, peaceful me, regretful me, traumatized me, resilient me, healed me, jealous me, shameful me, toxic me, strong me, inner child me, inner parent me, spiritual me, profane me, passionate me, extraordinary me. January the 16th, creating our own mini wellness me. If we can recognize that our inner world is filled with all sorts of mini-me's that have formed over time in random, haphazard ways, then hopefully we can also see the possibility of consciously creating our very own mini-me. Here are a few suggestions as to what a mini wellness me could look like and what it might do for you. A mini wellness me is a kindly being that has your best interests at heart and always looks out for you. It loves and cares for you unconditionally, even when you don't love yourself. It doesn't interfere in your day-to-day life unless required. Then it immediately comes to the fore. A wellness mini-me is a vehicle for all the skills and tools and knowledge that will help you to improve the quality of your life. It is unafraid to say things internally, the things that you cannot say. It is well balanced and fair and doesn't always agree with you. It has a strong sense of morality and looks at other people's well-being as well as your own. The earlier you are able to develop a wellness part to you, the more likely you will be able to future-proof your well-being, as you will have built up a radar for spotting and diverting yourself away from potential problems. At a later, advanced stage, you might even consider developing your own time-traveling mini wellness me, which is able to rescue and heal younger parts of you, but all in good time. January the 17th, skills for wellness. Skill, the ability to do something to a good enough level. some skills are always useful to have up your sleeve for any given situation or eventuality. Yet if you are focusing on a particular mission or a particular aspect of yourself, you will need to source and develop the right skills for the right task. Here's an incomplete list that could be useful for you to consider. It might be worth making a note of which skills you believe you already have and which ones need developing or improving. There will be plenty of skills that haven't been mentioned on this list, so please do take this into account. We'll start with the ones we've already mentioned before expanding our range. Okay. Focus, awareness, attunement, observing yourself neutrally, the ability to change, listening, logic, critical thinking, process of elimination, exploring, problem solving, looking for clues, following a thread of inquiry, organizing, experimenting, gathering information, processing information, interpreting, memorizing, thinking outside the box, thinking on your feet, using your senses, reflecting, self-honesty, trial and error, insight building. January the 18th, learning to learn for yourself. Question time. Do you associate learning with having to satisfy other people, such as teachers, parents, partners, employers? Can you imagine what it would be like to learn without anyone else's gaze or expectations upon you? Would you like to learn simply to boost your own knowledge or stimulate your mind? Would you like to learn more about the things that are important to you? We call this self-directed learning, or perhaps self-empowered learning, and it is anything but a chore. As well as the joy of learning freely being a wonderful way to wellness, there are plenty of things we can learn that will directly impact on our well-being. January the 19th. Aha, as in aha moments. Insight, to gain a deep understanding of something. So you are the expert of you. No one knows you better than you do. And yet, like any good expert, there is so much more you can learn to improve yourself. This is where other experts come into the frame. So over the past 100 years, many people have become pretty knowledgeable on certain subjects within their own field of learning. We can make good use of their learning. We can match whatever they know about the human condition with what we know about ourselves and come up with these aha moments. John Bowlby's attachment theory, for example, has generated loads of aha moments for so many people. The same can be said of Alice Miller's The Drama of Being a Child, Eric Burns' Games People Play, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross on Death and Dying, to name but a few. Yet insights do not solely come from knowledge. They also come from living our life, from our own interactions with people, and indeed with interactions with ourselves. We can have a eureka moment anytime, any place, anywhere, so long as we are open to receiving it. The more we know, the more we can understand. The more we can understand, the more we know. It is a process that keeps on giving, a cycle made for wellness and fueled by wellness. Would it be useful to reflect on any insights you have developed so far? Like, where did they come from? How did you develop them? I'm guessing that some insights will no doubt have taken years to crystallize. January the 20th, the art of reflection. If we are not reflecting on our own experiences in life, then we will be missing out on a whole treasure trove of information. So let's start to explore what this skill is all about. Reflection. To give serious and focused consideration to something. Reflection. An examination of one's actions, feelings, or thoughts. Reflection. An observation on what has transpired. Reflection. A willingness to experience and accept what is happening rather than ignoring, avoiding, or denying it. Most people who use reflective skills do so after an event. This is called reflecting on action. It involves looking back on something and discovering things that are useful to take with you into the future. Once you become skilled at reflecting on action, you are likely to be better able to reflect in action. This is where you get to use your awareness and respond to that awareness in real time. Then there is reflecting before an action. So if you know a little bit about what is likely to happen in the near future, you can use this knowledge to alter what would have happened if you went into the happening cold and blind. Now, as for reflecting on reflections, well, maybe we can save that for another time. January the 21st, process work. Any suffering that hasn't been dealt with will keep coming back to the surface in some way, either through physical or mental illness, or both. We might call this unfinished business. Neither the body or the mind wants to have this toxicity within its system. Periodic hurt and pain remind us that we need to deal with our suffering once and for all. A process is a series of steps or actions needed to produce an outcome. The process that is required to overcome suffering tends to be the same whatever intervention is being used, whether it is through talking or being creative and expressive, or with a somatic activity, or indeed a neuroscience approach. So here's the process. The suffering needs to be recalled from the back of the brain to the forefront of the brain. At this point, the intervention takes place so that the suffering, now in focus, can be processed, can be dissipated to a point where the body no longer needs to keep hold of it. And now the business is complete. For anyone struggling with any kind of trauma, abuse, adversity, etc., we trust that you can take comfort and hope from knowing that people do recover and heal if they are able to find a process that works for them. January the 22nd, tools for wellness. Since no one can be someone else's wellness guru, no one else can say exactly what tools you'll need for your journey. So even though we won't be mentioning moon rocks as a possible tool, there is nothing to stop people using them if it works for them. Conversely, just as some people will not need many tools, a pen, paper, or a mobile phone might be enough to do the job. Others may need a whole host of equipment and materials. January the 23rd. Questions, questions, questions. A good question to ask yourself is worth its weight in gold. A good question can help you save time on your wellness journey. A good question might be a challenging question, one you have avoided asking yourself for fear of the answer. A good question can come straight out of nowhere and knock you for six. We can find out so much about ourselves by asking and then attempting to answer the questions that are right for us at any moment in time. But before we even think about the answers, let us start with some questions. And here are some random ones, although it would be far more useful for you to create your own personalized questions. Who am I? What is important to me in my life right now? Do I need to say something to someone? How can I improve the quality of my life? What is missing from my life? What is the safest part of my body? What locations give me a sense of belonging? January the 24th, expanding your language. How might you describe your wellness if you only had 100 words in your lexicon? There are an estimated 250,000 words in the English language alone. How many words do you think you know in your native language, or indeed any language? The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein said, "The limits of my language means the limits of my world." You can only describe what is going on for you in your own world with whatever expressive communicative tools are available to you. For example, can you have déjà vu if you don't know what it is? If you look in a dictionary, you see that words are used to describe other words. So the more words you know, the more words you get to understand through knowing the words that are being used to describe the new words. And the same goes for ideas, concepts, and theories. Once you have grasped a simple concept, you can then use that knowledge to appreciate more complex theories, which you can then hopefully apply back to yourself and your own well-being, using words, and more words. Could this be a roundabout way of encouraging you to expand your horizons with new words and new ideas? Probably. So let us know when you are ready to explore individuation and mentalization. January the 25th, letting go. Sometimes the simplest way to change anything, if you aren't satisfied or content with it, is to let go of it, to literally, or metaphorically, throw it in the bin. This could be an object, or objects that have now become cluttered. It could be certain thoughts, feelings, or actions. It could also be values and beliefs that may have been useful to you at some point in your life, but which are now working against you. It could also be a person or persons. Can you make a list of all the things that are not satisfactory to you in your life and which you would like to step away from? Realistically, how many of them can you let go of? Or, if this seems too drastic, how many of them can you attempt to salvage and repair? January the 26th, for keeps. What would you like to have close to you at all times? Close at hand, close to your heart, close in mind and memory. There are some things that will always be for keeps, no matter what happened or happens thereafter. Sometimes it is useful to recall these precious moments to remind ourselves of the important things in life, the things that give us meaning and purpose, the things that make the hard times worthwhile. Can you make a list of all the things that are important to you in your life, such as people, pets, places, objects, achievements, passions, and so on and so forth? January the 27th, responding well. Even when people have limited choices, because they are financially constrained, or they are oppressed, or they have had their liberty taken away from them, they can still decide how to respond to their situation. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and survivor of Auschwitz, said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In that response lies our growth and our freedom." He also said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." The challenging question we have for you is this: are you a good responder? Put another way, do you have the ability to chop and change your responses based on an awareness of the countless choices you have within you at any given moment in time? For example, can you laugh, cry, pause, count to 10, move, walk away, be still, talk calmly, fall silent, whistle, breathe in, breathe out, remember, accept, acknowledge, apologize, self-soothe, reflect, learn, start again? People with limited responses can be a danger to themselves as well as to those around them. If you recognize that you have a small range of responses to any given situation, can you go on a journey of discovery and come back with a whole bag of options? January the 28th, Klopp-isms. A Klopp-ism, named after the football manager Jurgen Klopp, is a statement that is believed to be true, or as near to a truth as you are ever likely to get. It is a statement that doesn't need to be debated or researched or evidence-based, because it is strongly seen to be correct. It is also a statement that doesn't tend to be spoken because it is so obvious. It is kind of taken for granted. And yet, for our own wellness focus purposes, we will be naming these Klopp-isms. During Klopp's early interviews with English journalists, he often repeated the following phrases: "We know this," and "This is how it is." For us to say, "We know this," about any subject could be a valuable pin in the map of ourselves and our world. We are saying, this is what we know, and in turn, we're also saying, this is what we don't know, i.e., everything that is left out of what we know. There are things that we know, things that we don't know, and there are also things in the middle that we might know or we might not know, depending on how much more information we get or don't get. Knowing what is and what isn't, knowing how things are and how they are not, as well as not knowing either way, gives us an edge, a boundary, a limit to our understanding. Being able to define where gaps of knowledge are in our lives can be of great help to us. And while it is unlikely that we will ever be able to get all of the pieces of a picture together with any certainty, well, there's no harm in striving for greater clarity. January the 29th, crafting our own narrative. As part of the human condition, we make sense of ourselves and the world around us through the telling of stories. Everyone has a tale to tell, and everyone goes about the telling in different ways. A healthy narrative for each person will no doubt be constantly changing. reacting to the endless stream of information that is coming at us, shaping our story and reshaping it into bundles of understandable and meaningful entities, which can then be further explored and crafted through sharing it with other people. We are, according to the psychology professor Dan McAdams, our very own myth-making machines. We have the power to dictate our own stories. We are all composers of our own lives. Knowing how important telling our story is to our wellness, can we devote the time to keep on top of the ever-evolving story that is us? January the 30th, going on a mission. If you have the time, the focus, the skills, the tools, the motivation, the energy, there is absolutely nothing stopping you from going on a wellness mission of your own. What this might look like is entirely up to you. Here are some missions that other people have gone on. Understanding who I am, working out who I want to be, resolving my conflicts, changing my mindset, overcoming my fears, improving my self-worth, recovering from trauma, taking control of my life, learning to enjoy life, telling my story, setting a goal, undertaking a journey, reducing my distress, finding meaning and purpose. So, dear listener, what might your own mission be? January the 31st, the final entry of this month, recognizing progress. If you're doing some good self-detective work on yourself, would it be useful to measure your progress in some way? And if so, how might you take stock of where you once were, where you are now, and where you might want to be? If you are measuring weight, you might use scales. For length, you may choose a ruler. Yet when it comes to assessing the multi-layered aspects of our own well-being, it is going to need to be pretty unique and individually tailored for there to be any real meaning behind it. So, if you want to recognize and celebrate your progress, here are some random suggestions for creating your own wellness measurer. Regular diary entries that you can look back upon. Working out a survey for yourself with your own set of questions. Having a checklist. Adapting an existing measuring device, such as a visual or metaphorical yardstick, a thermometer, say, or a graphic equalizer, or a weather chart. If you're on a journey or aiming for a target, can you create something that demonstrates the distance that you have traveled? Can you regularly draw yourself, your mood, your current outlook on life? The choice, as always, is all yours and yours alone. Okay. And pause. And breathe. So yeah, that was January. We hope you've got some takeouts from the calendar so far. Be sure to mull over anything that stood out for you, and check out February, if you so wish, for more bite-sized nuggets around coping strategies. But for the time being, take care and bye for now.